You know the feeling. You are mid-sentence, everything is flowing beautifully, you're making your point, and then boom,
Oh, yeah, the worst.
a complete mental blank. Like the literal blue screen of death in your head.
Right.
The specific word you need is just gone. You can feel the shape of it in your mind, maybe even the first letter, but it completely refuses to materialize.
That's so fresh.
And what is the immediate visceral reaction to that? Panic. Pure panic. Your heart rate spikes, you stare at the person across from you,
Yeah.
and you tell yourself, well, my vocabulary is terrible.
Yes, the classic self-blame.
Right. You think, I just don't know enough words, I need to go home tonight and memorize like another 500 flashcards.
Which is the exact wrong response, actually.
Exactly. Because today, in this deep dive, we're going to prove to you that freezing up in a conversation has absolutely nothing to do with the size of your vocabulary. It is entirely about how you manage the traffic jam in your working memory.
It really is a fascinating psychological phenomenon. We have this deep-seated assumption that our brains operate like a giant alphabetical dictionary.
Yeah.
And we think that speaking fluently just means flipping to the right page quickly enough, but a language isn't a reference book sitting passively on a shelf,
Right. It's not just data storage.
Exactly. It is a highly active tool for human connection. When you freeze up, you are not failing a vocabulary test. You are experiencing a breakdown in your conversational habits.
Wow. Okay. A breakdown in habits.
Yeah, you are treating a dynamic, living interaction as if it were a strict academic exam where only the mathematically perfect answer is accepted.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because this whole perfection trap is where I see so many people, myself included, honestly, get completely derailed.
Oh, absolutely. It's universal.
Our notes for this deep dive make a really bold claim right out of the gate. The idea is that communication matters way more than perfection.
Spot on.
But let's be honest. From the day we step into our very first language class, we are conditioned to be perfect.
We really are.
We are graded with a red pen on grammar, on syntax, on using the exact dictionary definition of a term. It feels incredibly risky to just let go of that.
Well, sure, it feels risky, but clinging to that perfectionism is exactly what creates a massive psychological barrier.
How so?
Let's look at the cognitive mechanics of what happens when a learner tries to construct the absolute perfect sentence before they even open their mouth.
Okay, walk me through it.
So, you have an idea. You form that idea in your native language first. Then, your brain acts as this clunky translation software.
Right, like an internal Google Translate.
Exactly. It searches for the equivalent English vocabulary, it runs a diagnostic check on the verb tenses, it arranges the syntax, and finally, it sends the signal to your vocal cords to speak.
Which takes, I don't know, a few seconds.
Yeah, but in a fast-paced conversation, a few seconds is an absolute eternity.
That's true. The silence gets awkward fast.
Think about the real-time speed of a natural exchange. By the time your internal software finishes buffering that flawless sentence, the other person has already moved on to a completely different topic.
Oh man, yeah, the moment is just gone.
The moment is entirely gone. You are effectively doing double the cognitive work of a native speaker, which requires an immense amount of working memory.
Double the work.
It is no wonder people feel completely, physically and mentally drained after just 10 minutes of speaking in a second language. Your brain's RAM is maxed out.
I get the RAM analogy, I really do. But I have to push back here a little bit.
Go for it.
I really want to represent the skepticism of anyone listening right now. Because when I am in that moment and I freeze, if it is truly not a lack of vocabulary, why does it physically feel like my brain is empty?
That's a great question.
Like I look inside my head for the word for, say, a corkscrew, and there is just a vast echoing void. I mean, if the word isn't there, the word isn't there.
It feels empty, yes, but the emptiness is actually an illusion caused by stress.
Wait, really? An illusion?
Yeah. When you hit that moment of uncertainty, your anxiety about looking foolish triggers a mild fight-or-flight response.
Oh, wow, so it's physiological.
Completely physiological. Cortisol floods your system, and cortisol is notorious for blocking memory retrieval pathways.
So the stress literally blocks the memory.
Yes. The feeling of an empty brain isn't a lack of stored information. It is your anxiety literally slamming the door shut on your brain's filing cabinet.
So the anxiety over not having the perfect word causes me to lose access to the words I actually do have.
Precisely. You lock yourself out of your own vocabulary.
That is wild.
If we look at how fluent native speakers operate, it completely shatters this myth that you need to be perfectly prepared.
How so? because they seem pretty flawless most of the time.
They really don't, though. They do not search their minds for perfect words every single second. If you look at a raw transcript of two native speakers having a casual chat, it is grammatically chaotic.
Really? Chaotic? How?
It is full of false starts. They change their sentences midway through. They say a word, realize it's wrong, and backtrack. They repeat themselves constantly.
Okay, yeah, I guess I do that in English all the time without noticing.
Exactly. But to the listener, they sound entirely confident.
Because they don't stop. They just sort of plow right through the
And
mess.
that's the secret. They prioritize the rhythm of the interaction over grammatical perfection. The forward momentum is everything.
Keep the ball moving.
Right. They keep the connection alive.
Which brings up a very practical problem. If the goal is momentum, and we are supposed to abandon this need for a perfect mental dictionary, how do we actually maintain that forward motion when we genuinely, legitimately hit a blank wall?
Right, when the word really is just missing.
Yeah, let's say I'm completely relaxed. Zero cortisol. But I simply do not know the English word for a specific object. I never learned it. How do I maintain rhythm then?
This is where we shift from the psychology of conversation to the actual tactical strategies.
Okay, the practical stuff.
Confident speakers rely heavily on a tool called circumlocution. It is a fundamental survival skill in any language, actually, even your native one.
Circumlocution. I know that term from linguistics. It means talking around a word. We're like,
Exactly, talking around it.
but I'll be honest, it always sounded like a bit of a theoretical concept to me, or like something politicians do when they want to avoid answering a direct question.
In a conversational context, it is much more innocent than that and incredibly powerful.
Okay, how does it work in practice?
Circumlocution is simply the art of explaining an unknown word using simple, descriptive phrases you already possess.
So using basic words to explain complex ones.
Exactly. You are keeping the conversation alive by describing the shape, the function, or the location of the thing you cannot name.
Let's ground this with an example. We have a classic one in our research notes for this deep dive.
Yes, the umbrella.
Right. Let's say you are talking to a colleague. You are telling a story about your morning commute. And you completely forget the English word for umbrella.
The typical reaction from someone trapped in that perfection mindset is catastrophic failure.
They just freeze up.
They stop entirely. They freeze. They look at the ceiling. They might even explicitly apologize and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, my English is bad. I don't know the word."
And the momentum dies instantly.
The conversation hits a literal brick wall.
Right, because they view missing the noun as a failure of the entire sentence.
But a confident speaker, someone utilizing circumlocution, treats the missing word merely as a detour.
A detour. I like that.
If they forget umbrella, they don't panic. They pivot and say, the thing people use when it rains.
And look at the mechanics of that pivot. The conversation continues without a single bump.
Exactly.
You communicated the exact concept you needed to, using incredibly high-frequency basic words. Thing, people, use, rain.
You bypass the need for the specific noun entirely because you described its utility.
And the other person instantly pictures an umbrella, they nod, and the story continues.
It's seamless.
I love the efficiency of it. But I can hear the objection already, because honestly, I felt it myself.
What's the objection?
Doesn't saying, like the thing for rain or the machine that cuts paper, make me sound, I don't know, less intelligent?
Ah, yes. The fear of sounding childish.
Yeah, like a child who hasn't learned the proper names for things. I think the fear of sounding uneducated is what paralyzes people more than anything else.
That is a very common fear. I hear it all the time. But we have to look at the social dynamics of human interaction here.
Okay, let's look at the dynamics.
Imagine two scenarios. Scenario A. You stop abruptly, stare blankly in silence for 5 agonizing seconds, and then apologize for your poor vocabulary.
Yikes, okay.
Scenario B. You seamlessly say the thing you hold when it rains, and you just keep telling your funny story. Which scenario actually makes the interaction more awkward?
Scenario A, absolutely. The silence is excruciating.
Exactly. Stopping the flow forces the other person to manage your discomfort.
Oh, that's a great point. It puts the burden on them.
It shifts the burden of the conversation. Using a descriptive workaround, on the other hand, is socially invisible.
Invisible? Really?
In fact, native speakers use circumlocution in their own language constantly because even native brains glitch.
Oh, for sure.
How often have you been at a dinner party and heard a native speaker say, "Hey, can you pass me the thing you used to open the wine?"
All the time.
Yeah.
Or, where is the clicker thing for the TV?
Right. The remote.
Or can you grab that metal scooper from the drawer?
Rah.
We don't even register it as a lack of intelligence, we just register it as a casual request.
Exactly. Keeping the flow going is the true mark of a confident speaker.
So it's about confidence, not perfection.
This strategy completely removes the pressure of having a perfect vocabulary. You no longer need to know 50,000 nouns.
Which is a relief.
Huge relief.
Yeah.
You just need to know how to use the verbs and adjectives you do have to describe the nouns you don't have.
You talk about what it looks like, what it does, or where you find it.
It is a massive cognitive relief.
It is incredibly liberating. It changes the goal from memorize every word to become a master describer.
Beautifully put, yes.
But circumlocution is a reactive tool, right? It's the emergency parachute you deploy when the engine has already failed.
That's a fair assessment, yes.
I want to know if there are structural tools we can use to prevent the engine from failing in the first place. Like, how do we stop our brains from freezing before we even need a workaround?
To do that, we have to completely change the way we store language in our memory.
Okay, how do we usually store it?
Well, most learners memorize individual words brick by brick. They learn as and far and as and I and no.
5 separate bricks.
Right. When it's time to speak, they have to retrieve 5 individual bricks and figure out how to cement them together using grammar rules.
Which takes us right back to the working memory traffic jam. You're trying to build a wall brick by brick during a rainstorm.
Yes. The cognitive load is immense. The solution is to stop learning individual words and start learning chunks. Yes. Chunks are entire phrases, idioms, or collocations that your brain treats as a single unit of meaning.
So instead of 5 bricks, it's a prefabricated wall. You just slot it right into place.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. When you learn the phrase, as far as I know, you don't analyze the grammar of it in real time.
You don't think about why the word as is used twice.
Exactly. You just deploy the entire phrase as one seamless block. Native speakers rely on tens of thousands of these chunks.
Give me some examples of these chunks.
Things like, on the other hand, the reason is that, by the way, to make a long story short,
It bypasses the translation software entirely.
completely.
You don't translate, on the other hand, word for word, because that would mean something bizarre about resting on a physical hand.
Right, the literal translation is nonsense.
You just know the chunk means alternatively.
And because your brain is retrieving one chunk instead of 4 individual words, it operates exponentially faster.
It frees up your cognitive RAM.
It frees up the RAM to focus on the actual idea you want to express next, rather than the mechanical construction of your current sentence.
Okay, chunks make total logical sense.
Right.
But what about fillers?
Ah, fillers.
Our notes mention things like, well, let me think.
Yes, they are crucial.
But every speech coach, every high school presentation teacher I've ever had told me that using, makes you sound unprepared. They say it's lazy English. Are you suggesting we should actively practice bad habits?
I am suggesting we reevaluate what a bad habit is depending on the context.
Okay, tell me more.
If you are delivering a prepared high-stakes TED Talk or a quarterly financial report, yes, you want to minimize fillers because you have already planned your speech.
Right, it's rehearse.
But a natural, spontaneous conversation is not a prepared speech. In spontaneous speech, fillers are absolutely vital tools. Linguists actually refer to them as cognitive buffers.
Cognitive buffers. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Like a shock absorber for the brain.
Exactly. Or think of the little spinning wheel on a video stream when it's loading.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
When you say, that's a really interesting point, let me think about that. Or what I mean to say is, you are not conveying new factual information.
No, you're just making noise.
But you are doing something crucial.
Hmm.
You are keeping the channel open. You are signaling to the other person, I still have the floor, I am still processing, please do not interrupt.
Wow.
It buys your brain 3 to 4 precious seconds to organize your next thought without yielding your turn to speak.
That reframes it entirely. It's not laziness, it's active conversational management. You are holding your space in the dialogue.
And alongside those buffers, you have transitions.
Transitions, okay.
If chunks are the walls of your house, transitions are the hallways connecting the rooms.
Like, therefore, however.
Exactly. Words like in addition, for example, however, because of that, consequently.
Why are they so important?
Without transitions, your thoughts feel incredibly disjointed. You just spit out isolated facts. Transitions create the smooth, logical flow that makes someone easy to listen to.
Okay, so we're really building our toolkit here. We have circumlocution for emergencies, we have chunks for speed, we have fillers to buy time, and transitions to create flow.
It's a solid foundation.
But wait, there is still a massive variable here.
What's that?
Conversation is a two-way street. We've been talking as if the learner is just delivering a monologue. But the real pressure comes from interacting with the actual human beings sitting across from you. How do we manage the pressure of the back and forth?
That anxiety stems from a misconception about what a conversation actually is.
A misconception.
Many learners feel like every time the other person stops speaking, they are stepping up to a podium to deliver a flawless, lengthy rebuttal.
Right. Feels like a massive spotlight swings over to them.
But the most underutilized tool for shifting that spotlight and the cognitive pressure off yourself is simply asking a question.
We totally underestimate the power of curiosity as a defense mechanism, don't we?
It is brilliant because it accomplishes two things simultaneously.
That's the first.
First, if you feel yourself running out of vocabulary, becoming intensely curious about the other person keeps the conversation moving, but puts the cognitive load squarely onto them.
Oh, that's sneaky. You buy yourself minutes of rest while they speak.
And people generally love talking about themselves, so they think you're a fantastic conversationalist.
Win-win. What's the second benefit?
The second, more strategic benefit is what happens while they are talking. When they answer your question, they are literally handing you fresh vocabulary, grammatical structures, and new concepts.
Oh, I see.
You can harvest their words and recycle them in your next sentence.
You're stealing their building blocks.
Exactly.
If they say, I found the movie incredibly tedious, and you didn't know the word tedious, you can just loop it right back and say, yeah, I agree, the second act was especially tedious.
You instantly sound more fluent by mirroring. It's an incredibly efficient way to navigate a conversation.
That is such a good hack.
But eventually, the spotlight will swing back to you. You do have to answer questions. And this is where learners often hit a wall. They give dead-end answers.
Right, the classic dead end. Do you like coffee? Yes, I like coffee. End of sentence. The dreaded silence descends.
To avoid that, fluent communicators naturally employ a framework.
A framework.
The most effective one we see in the research is the what, why, how example framework.
Okay, what, why, how example.
It is a mental checklist that forces you to expand a basic thought into a rich, engaging response. Let's apply it to that dead-end coffee answer.
Let's do it. Walk me through it.
The question is, do you like coffee? The what is your core answer? Yes, I absolutely love coffee.
Okay, that's the base.
The why adds the reasoning. It gives me that initial burst of energy I need to actually start my workday.
Right, giving the reason.
Then the how adds the method or process. I recently started brewing it at home using a French press instead of a drip machine.
Okay, getting specific.
And finally, the example grounds it in a specific story. For instance, just this morning, I tried this incredible new dark roast from Colombia.
That is a night and day difference. You went from a 3-word dead end to a 30-second, multi-layered response.
And look at what you accomplished.
What's brilliant is that you just gave the other person 3 different hooks to grab onto.
Exactly.
They can respond to the energy aspect, the French press aspect, or the Colombian roast aspect. You've guaranteed the conversation will continue.
It operates like a conversational map. When you train yourself to think in this framework, you never have to panic about what to say next because the formula dictates the next step.
What is it? Why do I care? How does it work? Can I give an example?
Right.
Okay, the why-how framework makes perfect logical sense on paper. I can see how it generates content, but I know my own brain.
We all do.
In the heat of the moment, sitting at a cafe with a native speaker, logic completely goes out the window and my mouth just won't cooperate. I know what I want to do, but my vocal cords don't execute it.
And that disconnect happens because you are treating language fluency purely as an intellectual exercise,
When it's not.
when it is actually a highly demanding physical one. You understand the theory, but you haven't trained the muscle memory.
Muscle memory for speaking.
You wouldn't read a biography of Serena Williams and then expect to step onto Wimbledon center court and serve an ace, right?
Definitely not.
You have to physically train the muscles.
Which brings us to the absolute core of the methodology in our research for this deep dive. The concept of the language gym.
The language gym, yes.
This is about moving from knowing about English to physically producing English.
Precisely. Fluency is an athletic endeavor. You have to train your lungs, your vocal cords, your tongue, and your motor cortex to work synchronously.
It's a physical workout.
And the key principle of this physical training is that consistency vastly outperforms intensity.
Meaning, studying for 5 hours on a Sunday is significantly less effective than speaking out loud for 15 minutes every single day.
Biologically, yes. Language acquisition relies on neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form and reorganize synaptic connections.
Okay, neuroscience.
Those pathways are carved through repeated daily exposure and usage, not isolated marathon sessions.
Small daily reps.
Small daily actions signal to the brain that this skill is essential for daily survival, so the brain prioritizes myelinating those neural pathways to make them faster.
So how do we actually work out? What does a 15-minute session in the language gym look like?
We have several exercises.
Let's really get into these, because the goal here isn't just to list a bunch of exercises, but to highlight the most effective daily speaking exercises for language learners and understand how each one targets a different mechanism of fluency.
Let's start with what seems like the simplest one, but is apparently heavily underrated: reading aloud.
Reading aloud, honestly, I haven't done that since elementary school.
Most adults only read silently. When you read a news article or a book silently, your brain is processing the language entirely internally.
Right, it's just thoughts.
Your comprehension might be great, but your speech organs are completely dormant. When you read aloud, you are forcing the motor cortex to execute the physical shape of the language.
You are literally building muscle memory in your jaw and tongue for the rhythms of English.
Exactly. English has a very specific cadence. It is a stress-timed language, meaning we emphasize certain syllables and swallow others.
Right, the natural rhythm.
When you read aloud for 5 minutes a day, you aren't worrying about generating ideas. The author already did that. You are purely focused on the gymnastics of the mouth.
That makes so much sense.
Over time, those common sentence structures become physically automatic. You drastically reduce hesitation because your mouth already knows the choreography.
That is fascinating. You strip away the cognitive load of thinking of what to say and isolate the physical act of speaking.
Exactly. Isolation training.
But eventually, we do have to generate our own thoughts. If I want to practice spontaneous speaking, but I don't live in an English-speaking country and I'm sitting alone in my apartment, how do I generate spontaneous practice?
You utilize your immediate surroundings. We call it describing your environment.
Describing the environment.
It is the perfect exercise for your morning commute or while you're doing chores. You simply narrate what you see and experience out loud or even silently if you are in public.
Like a sports commentator for mundane life.
Exactly like that.
So I'd be like, the man in the blue jacket is crossing the street. The sky looks like it's going to rain. I'm opening the refrigerator to get the milk.
It sounds trivial, but it is incredibly powerful.
Why is it so powerful?
You are training your brain to generate language on demand based on random, unpredictable visual stimuli.
Because conversation is unpredictable.
Exactly. In a classroom, you practice highly scripted dialogues. In the real world, conversation is chaotic. Narrating your environment bridges that gap. It forces your brain to constantly retrieve vocabulary for the physical world around you.
And I imagine doing this constantly helps break the habit of translating from your native language.
That is the ultimate goal. The more you describe simple, immediate actions directly in English, the more you cut out the native language middleman.
You bypass the software.
You start bypassing the translation software. When you see a dog, you don't think of the word in your native language and then translate it to dog. You see the animal and the English word dog fire simultaneously.
Okay, so we're building muscle memory by reading aloud, and we're practicing spontaneous generation by narrating our commute.
What's next?
Let's take it a step further. How do we practice that what, why, how framework we talked about earlier? How do we train our brains to not hit dead ends?
You do it through topic expansion exercises.
Topic expansion.
In the gym, you pick a single, incredibly simple noun. Let's use pizza.
Good topic.
A beginner will look at the prompt and say, "I like pizza," and feel they have completed the task. In the language gym, you force yourself to expand that single word into a 1-minute monologue.
You interrogate the topic.
Yes. You explain why it's your favorite food. You recount the story of where you had the best slice of your life in Naples.
Oh, getting specific.
You discuss who you usually share it with and how often you let yourself order it on weekends.
Building a web.
You are training the cognitive habit of letting one idea naturally branch into another. You are building webs of connected thoughts so that when you are in a real conversation, your brain automatically searches for the next branch instead of stopping at the trunk.
This reminds me of the storytelling aspect of conversation. Humans are deeply wired for narratives. If I ask someone, "How was your weekend?" I don't want a list of facts. I want a mini story.
And storytelling is a phenomenal practice tool because it has built-in momentum.
Built-in momentum.
When you practice recounting your day chronologically, first I woke up late. Next, I had to sprint to the bus stop. As a result, I spilled my coffee, but finally, I made it to the office.
The transitions pull you forward.
The logical sequence of events pulls you forward. You aren't desperately searching the room for a random topic. The narrative structure tells you what sentence must come next. It trains you to use those crucial transition words we discussed earlier.
All right, I want to try something live.
Oh, okay.
Our research mentions a specific high-intensity exercise called the Continuous Speaking Challenge. It is billed as the ultimate cardio workout for language learners.
It really is.
Walk me through the rules,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to attempt it right now, unscripted.
I love this. The rules for the Continuous Speaking Challenge are simple but brutal.
Brutal, great.
You set a timer, usually for 1 minute, but we can do 30 seconds for this demonstration. I will give you a random, mundane topic. From the moment I say go, you must speak continuously out loud about that topic until the timer stops.
And the catch is, I cannot stop talking no matter what.
No matter what. If you forget a word, you cannot stop and think in silence. You must use circumlocution to talk around it.
Okay.
If you completely lose your train of thought, you must use a cognitive buffer, a filler phrase, to keep your vocal cords vibrating while your brain recovers. The only rule is, the sound must not stop.
Yeah.
It trains your brain to survive under pressure without freezing.
Okay. I'm actually terrified, but let's do it. Give me a
Okay.
topic, 30 seconds.
Your topic is coffee mugs. Go.
Okay, coffee mugs. Well, to start off, I think coffee mugs are incredibly important because, they hold the liquid that gives us life every morning. I have a favorite mug. It's, what I mean is, it's not made of glass. It's made of that heavy baked earth material.
Ceramic. Keep going. Good circumlocution.
Right, the heavy baked earth. And it has a picture of oh wow, my mind just blanked. Let me think about how to describe this. It has a picture of the animal that barks on it because I love dogs. And the reason I prefer this specific vessel is that it keeps the heat inside much longer than a paper cup from a cafe, which is important because, as far as I know, cold coffee is terrible unless it's purposefully iced.
Time. That was brilliant. Look at what just happened.
My brain completely stopped working.
Your brain glitched twice. You forgot the word ceramic, so you said heavy-baked earth material. That is textbook circumlocution.
Couldn't think of dog.
Then you lost your train of thought, and what did you do? You didn't stare at me in silence. You said, let me think about how to describe this. You used a filler phrase to buy yourself 3 seconds of RAM to recover.
I physically felt the panic when I forgot ceramic. My brain screamed, stop! But because I was forced to keep speaking, the workaround just tumbled out of my mouth.
And that is exactly what the Continuous Speaking Challenge trains. It proves to you that you don't need the perfect word to survive.
Wow.
If you do that exercise for 2 minutes a day, the fear of freezing completely evaporates because you know you have the tools to talk your way out of any corner. If you can speak continuously to a wall about coffee mugs for 2 minutes, talking to a human being for 30 seconds feels effortless.
That is incredibly empowering. It takes the abstract theory and makes it a tangible skill you can practice.
And really does.
Now, there's one more exercise in the gym that I know language communities swear by, though it requires a bit of equipment.
Shadowing.
Shadowing is exceptional for fine-tuning pronunciation and rhythm.
How does it work? You take an audio clip of a native speaker, a podcast, a YouTube video, an audiobook, and you listen through headphones. As they speak, you repeat exactly what they are saying, almost simultaneously, just a fraction of a second behind them.
Like an echo.
Exactly like an echo. You are mimicking everything. The speed, the pauses, the emotion, where their pitch goes up or down.
Everything. So you aren't analyzing grammar.
No, you are entirely focused on physical mimicry. It bypasses your analytical brain and embeds the natural melody of English directly into your nervous system. You start to intuitively feel how a sentence should sound rather than trying to calculate it.
Okay, we've got an amazing workout routine. Reading aloud, narrating the commute, topic expansion, the continuous speaking challenge, shadowing.
A full gym.
But to play devil's advocate again, all of this output requires a foundation. I can't circumlocute if I don't have basic descriptive words. I can't shadow if I can't parse the sounds.
That's true.
The output relies on input. Which brings us to the final, crucial phase of our discussion. The invisible pillars that support fluency. Vocabulary, listening, and mindset.
It is a critical point. You cannot pour water from an empty jug, but the way we acquire that water, the vocabulary needs a radical overhaul.
How so?
Our research strongly advocates for depth over breadth. Specifically, it highlights the Pareto principle as it applies to linguistics, often framed as the 300 versus 1,000 word rule.
This was a mind-bending concept for me when I read it. The idea that learning 1,000 advanced, highly specific words is actually far less useful for fluency than thoroughly, completely mastering 300 core words.
It defies our academic conditioning, where bigger words equal better grades.
Exactly.
But let's look at the statistical reality of conversational English. Lexical coverage studies show that just the 300 most frequent words in English make up roughly 65% of all spoken conversation.
That's huge.
If you expand that to the top 1,000 words, you cover about 85% of daily speech.
So the vast majority of our interactions rely on a tiny, repetitive pool of words.
Exactly. Words like get, take, make, go, have, time, way.
Very simple stuff.
The problem is, learners memorize the primary dictionary definition of get, check it off their list, and move on to memorizing obscure words like ubiquitous or cacophony.
But the word get has about 50 different applications.
Precisely. You can get tired, get a promotion, get over an illness, get along with a friend, get the joke.
Right.
A fluent speaker has a deep, incredibly flexible familiarity with those core words. They know all the phrasal verbs, the idioms, the collocations associated with them.
So it's about agility.
Having a deep mastery of those 300 core words gives you infinitely more conversational agility than knowing the rigid definitions of 1,000 rare terms you will use once a decade.
It's the difference between having a toolbox with 1,000 highly specific, weirdly shaped wrenches that only fit one pipe, versus having a Swiss Army knife that you know how to use in 100 different ways.
That is exactly it. Depth provides agility.
And how do we acquire that deep, intuitive understanding of how these core words behave in the wild?
Through the second pillar, massive amounts of listening.
I feel like in traditional learning, we separate the two. We think, okay, now I will do my listening practice, and later I will do my speaking practice. They are treated as separate subjects.
Which is a mistake, because listening provides the raw architectural materials for speaking.
Building blocks.
When you immerse yourself, when you constantly listen to podcasts, watch movies, listen to audiobooks, you are doing something profound. Even if you aren't actively studying the grammar, your subconscious brain is passively absorbing the statistical patterns of the language.
It's pattern recognition. Your brain is keeping a tally of which words naturally travel together.
Yes, collocations. Your brain notices that native speakers say heavy rain, not strong rain.
Right.
They say make a mistake, not do a mistake. The more high-quality natural input you feed your brain, the more these patterns sit right on the edge of your subconscious.
So it's ready to go.
When you open your mouth to speak, your brain doesn't have to build the phrase from scratch. It just retrieves the pattern it has heard 500 times before. Listening is what makes speaking feel effortless.
So the prescription is immersion. Turn off the subtitles, listen to the rhythms, let the language wash over you, and trust that your brain is silently building the database.
Absolutely.
But even with the Swiss Army knife vocabulary, and even with massive listening input, there is one final pillar that can still bring the whole structure crashing down.
Yes.
Mindset. Specifically, the massive impact of our emotional state on our cognitive performance.
Oh, we touched on this at the very beginning with the cortisol response, but it demands deeper focus. The state of your nervous system dictates the fluency of your tongue.
It dictates it.
Anxiety literally narrows your brain's focus. It triggers tunnel vision. If you enter a conversation terrified of making a grammatical mistake or desperate to sound like a native speaker, your brain perceives the interaction as a threat.
And when under threat, the brain shuts down access to higher-order creative thinking, which includes fluid language generation.
Exactly. It blocks the retrieval pathways. You cannot access the rich vocabulary you possess because your brain is too busy preparing for a fight-or-flight scenario.
It's just trying to survive.
On the flip side, consider the emotional state of curiosity, playfulness, and comfort with uncertainty.
Comfort with uncertainty. That feels like the ultimate superpower here.
It truly is. When you are relaxed, when you accept that you will make mistakes, that you will mispronounce words, and that you will occasionally have to describe an umbrella as the thing for rain,
Because it happens.
Right. Your nervous system remains calm. The retrieval pathways remain wide open. The words flow easier because you aren't fighting your own biology.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and look at the entire landscape we've covered today, the ultimate secret of fluent speakers isn't what they know.
No, it's not.
It's how they handle what they don't know. It isn't that they have a perfect encyclopedic mental dictionary. The secret is that they trust their ability to navigate the void.
That's beautifully said.
They know that if the exact word isn't there, they have the tools, the circumlocution, the chunks, the fillers, the what, why, how frameworks to build a bridge over that void and keep the connection alive.
That is the profound shift. They know how to describe, explain, ask questions, and connect ideas without fear. They rely on the physical muscle memory they've built in their daily practice.
The language, Jim.
And when you master those elements, the entire paradigm of conversation changes. It stops feeling like a high-stakes performance where you are waiting for the buzzer to go off because you made an error.
It becomes natural.
It becomes exactly what it is supposed to be. A natural, imperfect, highly enjoyable exchange of thoughts between two human beings. Words no longer feel scarce because your mind has learned the mechanism of generating language continuously.
What an incredible, empowering shift in perspective. To quickly recap the journey we've been on today in this deep dive, we are officially, permanently ditching the mental dictionary.
Throw it out.
If you hit the blue screen of death and forget a word, you do not panic. You use circumlocution to talk around it. Describe its shape, its function, its location. We are shifting from individual bricks to pre-made walls by using chunks and transition words.
Yes.
We're using cognitive buffers, yes, fillers, to buy our brains time to process. And most importantly, we are committing to the 15-minute daily language gym. Read aloud to build muscle memory, narrate your environment, expand simple topics into webs of thought, and challenge yourself to speak continuously under pressure.
And as we close this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over.
Please do.
The notes we analyzed today state that when you apply these habits, conversations stop feeling like tests. I want you to genuinely reflect on that metaphor. If you have been treating every English conversation like a strict, terrifying exam your entire life, who exactly is grading you?
Wow, who is grading you?
There is no examiner sitting in the corner of the cafe with a clipboard. The native speaker across from you isn't deducting points for using a filler word or a descriptive workaround. They just want to know your story.
Yeah.
The only person scoring you, the only person demanding absolute perfection is yourself. What would happen to your fluency tomorrow? What would happen to your confidence today if you simply decided to put the red pen down?
Put the red pen down, stop grading yourself, and just start connecting. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Go out there, narrate your commute, embrace the messy, beautiful mistakes, and start talking around your missing words today. You have all the tools you need. You've got this.